Good evening and welcome back. So, testosterone wins matches, as we see here. For people who have looked into the Black Lives Matter movement, they tend to have quite a few disagreements about it, which is funny that if you see something pushed very hard, then it's probably worth doing a little bit of research into what it is that they want you to believe and support, because chances are there's more to it than meets the eye, and that is what these rugby players have found out. So this is from the recent Scotland versus England match. Regrettably, England weren't victorious this time, but maybe if they can get their mind in order, we'll do better next time. So, key focus today. Billy Vunipola leads players who chose not to kneel against racism at Six Nations. England star, who was of Tongan descent and was born in Australia, has compared practice to burning churches and Bibles. He hasn't quite compared the practice. He said that is what they actually support, because, well, they do. Black Lives Matter is trying to form its own religion, and therefore, just as we saw with Islam after Christianity, that they try and push out all other forms of religion as well. So of course they're going after the Bible and churches because they see that as a rival institution. So England and Scotland's rugby players lined up in support of the Rugby Against Racism campaign today, which is another virtue signalling crapshoot. It really is. What's the point of it? Well, of course, you're supposed to just take it at face value and say, well, you know, racism is bad. There's more to somebody than the colour of their skin, in which case we shouldn't be stereotyping based on ethnicity. Yeah, well, we can all get behind that. So, yeah, cool, okay. So what does this movement or campaign actually do? It breaks people down on the basis of their ethnicity in order to fill out quotas. So, well, hang on a minute. Isn't this going exactly against the title of your campaign? So, yeah, but that doesn't matter because it's just linguistics. So good old Billy led a minority of England players who chose to remain standing during the display. 7 England players stood up and 4 Scotland stars took the knee, while the rest remained standing. So of course after this you got a load of Braveheart images, because that's what you'd expect. But the point is this. It's difficult when facing overwhelming pressure and peer pressure to actually stand up for what you believe in. And there have been numerous studies, and I'm sure you've heard the classic psychological test of getting in one participant, but a load of actors who the participant thinks are also just other participants. And they'll show a couple of lines on the screen. One is a little longer than the other. It's noticeable, but it's not, incredibly obvious. And then they'll go down the line, and the participant will be at the end, because they'll be saying, "Oh, which line is longer?" And the first one, the actor, will mention that they think the shorter line is longer. So the participant's thinking, "Okay, bit of a wacko here." Then the second one asks, same thing, the shorter line is longer. They're thinking, this is a bit weird, what's going on? Further down the line, and they're all saying, one after the other, that the shorter line is longer. So the participant is a little bit confused, really, and now they don't believe their own lying eyes. So, of course, they chime in and say something that they know to be false, which is that they also say, yes, that shorter line is definitely the longer line. Yeah, please don't look at me. Let me fit in, please. And so they'll do something that they know to be wrong. So when it comes to something where the impetus is behind it and it suggests that it is actually a good thing, like being against racism or that lives matter, when it is that, twinned with the fact, of course, of this peer pressure, it is understandable why people's own character and sense of morality does not ring through. It's very understandable. It's not something to be applauded or encouraged. Instead, it is something to be made aware of in order to prevent this from happening. That you do actually have to just go, okay, hi guys, sorry, I might seem a bit stupid here, I might be a bit ignorant, do apologise. It's just I'm not quite understanding what you're getting at. Would you mind just explaining it to me? Because I'm not quite following. And that's what you're going to do. And just say, well, yeah, as it stands, and maybe I'm not fully informed, but I kind of disagree with you on this one. As simple as that. And you can do that in any aspect of life as well. Because chances are that if somebody believes something and they're passionate about that, they will be more than happy to explain it to you. They really will, because, that's actually somebody that's taken interest, and there is a legitimate sense of intrigue, in which case they're more than happy to convey information that they know, and of course they think that they're much smarter because they know something that you don't, even if that isn't the case. But because you're going with an inquisitive nature instead of a confrontational manner, you can find out what you're unaware of. And it might be, no, you were correct all along, and just they haven't done their research and they don't know as much as you do, in which case you'll remain unconvinced and stick with your previous notion. But that is the way to do it. And by doing it in that way, you're then not so concerned about caving to peer pressure, because there isn't really any pressure there. You're actually not disagreeing with anyone. You're just saying that you're not as informed as they are, even if you actually are. It's all about perception and rhetoric when it comes down to it. So, good old Billy. Of course, they have to mention he's from Oceania, or Tongan. Basically, that he's not white, however you decide that. But what's the latest? That East Asians are white, but Slavs are not white. I think that's the latest revelation that's come out, because, of course, we've now moved on from saying white is a colour, and instead it's a political identity. Yes, it's whiteness, as you might say. But you would also expect manly men, burly men, that rugby players are, of course. You wouldn't want to get into a heated argument with a rugby player, that they would be testosterone fueled and driven and aggressive, and not wish to be in such a subservient position to communists as they are portraying here. Whereas, of course, on the Scottish side, where there aren't so many cucks, it's kind of like the classic phrase, alpha fucks, beta cucks, that, of course, they're going to win the match because they haven't been fucked within the mind. It's just a total demoralisation campaign that has affected the English players a lot more than it has the Scottish players. What does that result in? If people don't really know what they're doing and they can't have their heart in it, and they don't believe that they've got the support of those behind them because they're being told that they're evil for things that they have no control over, and that if they're black then that they can't get ahead for nothing that they have any control over, they're not going to be fully committed to it, and of course they're not going to perform as well either. And the same goes in your own life, and I'm not going down the whole idea of the promise and the law of attraction, but it is definitely true to say that you're going to get out what you put in, and to get a massive outcome you need to take massive action. Where focus goes, energy flows, as the saying has it. So you do need to go into something with confidence, knowing that you can achieve it, wanting the best outcome, knowing what your desired outcome is, in order to have the best chance of having that. It's just like the people who think of themselves as lucky are then the luckiest. And that's even been shown with another test, which is just having to look through a magazine for a hidden message. And the people who thought that they were more lucky beforehand are far more likely to find about a third of the way through this magazine there's a quite obvious advert saying, hey, if you're reading this, you're in the test, you can stop now, you've won £1,000. And they go, oh, cool, brilliant. And then they stop the test there. Whereas the people who don't think of themselves as lucky, but might still think of themselves as having good attention to detail, are far less likely to notice that. So again, it comes back to mindset. But getting back to yielding to communism, it is good to see that instead of it being everybody and then people slandered for not doing it, we're seeing, at least on the Scottish side, the majority have not buckled. They're not yielding. And that's good, that the tide is turning slowly but surely. And that is getting increasingly difficult to do, because, of course, historically, you'd be able to go out and about and talk to people and express your views and discuss things. Anything you want. There was no censorship. It was just two people talking. You could say whatever you want. Easy. But now that we can't go outside and it's all on the internet and things are censored and certain things aren't allowed to be discussed and certain ideas aren't allowed to be shared, then it's a massive kind of national social engineering project that's going on in order to make people unaware of certain topics and certain facts, and also then to hide any disagreements that there might be with the enforced narrative, so that this kind of a change of heart cannot happen in the future. But for now, we've got to take advantage of every opportunity we've got. It can happen and will continue to happen, because sooner or later the truth will come out, and it's a classic lightness over darkness debacle, and it doesn't always seem like that sometimes, but it's just the nature of humans, and it might take a bloody long time, but it will happen. The truth will come out. The lie can only stay hidden for so long, because you tie yourself into too many knots and you drag yourself down, just like the left is doing with its infighting and its purity spirals and circular firing squads. It's always going to transpire to that. Yes, there will be a lot of damage and mayhem in the interim, but eventually, when all is said and done, the truth will out, and I'm a firm believer that the good will always overcome the bad. But that is not an excuse to not make it happen. The only reason that is true is because we make it happen. But that's it for me. So as always, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think that we are actually seeing a change in heart on the BLM narrative and people are waking up to what it's all about? And of course they don't support that, because why the bloody hell should they support communism and saying that England is just going to be eternally evil and that black people can't get ahead no matter what they do? Or do you think, oh no, the establishment isn't done yet, they're going to just ram this harder? Don't you think that's why they didn't have any audience present there? Because they didn't want that booing to happen. They didn't want people with morals and a sound philosophy to have support, and they wanted them ostracized as much as could be when there's a controlled environment. I'm intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one.